Sunday. Welcome to Sunday Showers from the Source. My name is Patrice Hunt, and thank you for joining me this Sunday. This Sunday, we're going to talk about, pain versus discomfort. Maybe that'll be the best topic. I recently had the opportunity to sit with a physical therapist while he was evaluating one of his patients, and this patient was dealing with pain just from a pain that they deal with every day. And so what he was explaining to them is that, while yes, you deal with this pain, but if you allow that pain to make you not move or not do anything, then it's going to be harder for you to move forward. It's going to be harder for you to get through and get back to the point where you used to be, or back to a point where you are mobile and able to do all the things you need to do. The other things he said to her that really just stuck with me was, he said something along the lines that, when we are in pain, there is a difference between pain and discomfort, I guess. And that sometimes when we are in pain, we just try to avoid any kind of discomfort, regardless of what it is. And he was just telling her that it was just important for her to just make up in her mind that, okay, I am in pain all the time, but this extra pain that I'm going to get from moving my body the way that it needs to be moved to work myself out to get to where I need to be. If you make up in your mind that that's important to you and that's valuable to you, and that's what you're going to do for yourself, it just makes it easier and it makes it better. And he was just talking about how your mind is such a powerful tool. And how it will help you reach those goals and punch through the walls that we put up. But just that whole conversation just really sparked something, just sparked a connection with me in our walk with God and in our life with God as well, because there are times that we go through things and they are hard and they are difficult. And especially if we have a prolonged season of difficulty, and then it's just something else pops up and it's I'm not going to do that. I'm going to avoid that at all costs, because what I'm going through right now is enough. But that other thing that might be coming in could be something that God is trying to use to grow you in a way that he knows that you need and that would be beneficial to you. But all, we try to do is just avoid the discomfort. And so one of the things I wrote down is that all pain is not equal. And the reason I say that is because, he said, the difference between pain and discomfort, that we'll go through things in life, or we'll deal with things that are really painful, physically, emotionally, mentally, all of those things. But there are also some things that are just not comfortable. And sometimes we get so complacent in our comfort zone that we don't want to push past, any kind of difficulty. If anything, if there seems to be any kind of bump in the road, we just want to avoid it all around, or just stop and say, I give up, I'm not going any farther. But in this realm, in this conversation, it made me just think about how we have to push through, how we have to be intentional in our relationship with God, that when he brings us in, when he allows us to go through trials and tribulations and things like that, that we have to be strong enough and do mind over matter in that kind of situation, where we can say, okay, I'm moving forward regardless. I know that this is hard. I know this is not easy. I know this is uncomfortable. I know it's not going to be a bed of roses, but I'm going to move forward with this. What this conversation, when he was talking, what it made me think about is how I work out. And I've probably said on the podcast a million times that I work out at least 5 to 6 days a week. And when I work out, so what this conversation made me think about is when I do my weightlifting. I used to work out with 10s. I went to 15s. I've gone to 20s, and now I have 25s. There are there was this time when Rachel was on the podcast earlier, like in last season, and I'll link that episode, those 2 episodes with her up here, so you can go back and see that because she talks about faith and fitness. But she trained me, went back when I did this group like challenge boot camp, and then she also trained me personally, one-on-one in her new company, and so. When I was working out with her, she would have me she gave me workouts to do. And then she would have me log what weights I used, how many reps I did and everything. And so she took it upon herself one day to mail me 25-pound weights. And I was like, oh, what's this for? And she's like, no, I think that, you're doing these snatches and these thrusters with 20s. And I really think that you should challenge yourself and that you should do them with 25s. And so I was like, but 20s, I got that. I can do 20s. And she's like, no, you need to start doing 25s. And so that's where I've been ever since. There are some workouts that I do that I use my 10s for. It's not, there are some workouts that I can use 15s for, and there are some workouts that I use 20s for. But some of my leg things and like thrusters and snatches, things like that. Sometimes even bent over rows or RDLs, I can use my 25s with that. Is it easy? No. Is it comfortable? Not at all. Are my arms and legs sore after I use them? Yes. But the thing is that, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, how the pain and the soreness that we feel in our muscles when we work out is because we've broken down those muscles in the workout. And then what happens is you are regenerating new, stronger muscles in the place where you have those micro tears in your muscles. So you are, in essence, the pain that you're feeling and the soreness and the discomfort really is more of a better word to use, soreness and discomfort. The soreness and discomfort that you're feeling in that situation, it is you getting stronger. And so in life, we have opportunities to go through things that make us stronger. Sometimes we decide to not go through it. Sometimes we decide this is too hard. This is too uncomfortable. I don't want to do this. I enjoy where I am right now. And when we do that, no, we don't experience the discomfort. We don't experience the soreness, but it's because we don't have the growth, because we haven't become stronger. It's like those two things are synonymous. You have to have, in order to be stronger and better and experience that growth, you have to experience the discomfort. You have to experience the pain, the soreness. And so I think sometimes in our Christian walk and in life in general, we get so complacent and so comfortable that we don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to do what it takes to push past where we are. And the problem with that is we're not happy with where we are. We're not happy in the situation. We're not happy with the way our marriage is. We're not happy with the job that we're in. We're not happy with our family dynamic. But because it would be more uncomfortable to change it, to do what it takes to make the change, we decide to sit in the pain. We decide to sit in the displeasure because it would be more uncomfortable to do something about it. There is this book called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter that I am going to start to read in the near future. I have like 50 million things on my list. So that's another thing that I'm adding to my list that hopefully I can get done. But The Comfort Crisis is basically a book by Michael Easter, like I said, and it's available on Amazon. And it is just talking about how we have basically become, we live these temperature controlled, sheltered, overfed, under challenged lives. And because of that, we are, our health, our mental health, our physical health, our emotional well-being, all of these things are being negatively affected by the fact that we choose to live in the comfort zone. One of the interesting things that just reading the synopsis of this book, because I heard about it from a trainer that I follow. And one of the interesting things about this book that once I went to go research is it made me think about how um, reliant I am on my Alexa device. I have them basically in every room, and I use them to remind me of things, add things to my calendar, um, to wake my children up, talk to my children, call my neighbors, like pre open the garage door, preset my oven, like all these things I use it for. And it's making me lazy because there will be time that I'm sitting in the living room on the couch and I'll say, hey, Alexa, preheat the lower oven to 450 degrees. I could have gotten up and hit the button, preheat the oven, bake 350 degrees and went right back and sat down. And it wouldn't have been anything. But because I am now used to doing that with her, the wonderful technology that makes me be able to preheat the oven while I'm in my bedroom or on the couch, or heck, driving back home from somewhere else. Like that's, I can kind of understand that better. If I'm on my way home and I know I need to cook when I get home, and it'll be easier if the oven is already preheated when I get there. Okay, I can understand that, setting that in my phone so that when I get home, I can get started with cooking. But to like be lazy and sitting on the couch or in the kitchen, just on the other side of the island and telling her to do it when I could just walk the 10 feet to the oven and do it myself. It's like those situations. Or how before I had any of the devices and I needed my children, I would just like walk up the stairs and say, hey kids, whatever, or what are y'all doing, or whatever the case may be, or go run up and knock on the door and ask for whatever I need, or to tell my husband whatever while he's in his man cave. And it's like all these things that I used to do, and now I don't do them anymore because I have this new thing that makes it a little bit easier. And so now I'm comfortable with, doing it the way I'm doing it. And one of the quotes that was in the book, it says, today's comfort will become tomorrow's discomfort. And so that's the truth. It's like every time as technology evolves and we start to live in a world where more and more things are done for us, we become less likely to do other things. So it's like now that I have this Alexa that will preheat my oven or drop in on my kids' rooms and I can talk to them that way, I am less likely to go up the stairs or get up out of my bed and go preheat the oven. And so it's making me, I'm not going to say us, it's making me a little bit lazier. And so what happens is when I am so cushy and comfortable in life, it makes it less likely that I am going to go outside my comfort zone. Because with technology and with the world that we live in, everything is more accessible at our fingertips. With the sound of our voice, we can sit on the couch and press a code in our phone and open the door, to let somebody in. We don't necessarily have to get up and greet them at the door. And so I think that doing life like complacent in our comfort zone makes us not push past the boundaries of discomfort. And discomfort has a purpose in our life, in working out, in our relationships. Discomfort makes us grow. And so if we are not allowing ourselves to experience and feel discomfort, then we are not growing as people. We're not growing in our relationships with our kids, with our spouses, with our friendships, with our family members. We're not growing in our jobs and in our hobbies and in our sporting activities or whatever. We're not growing in aspects of our lives because we are not allowing ourselves to be challenged. And so when I think that when to bring this around back full circle into our relationship with God, He allows us to go through trials and tribulations. He brings them up so that we can work and exercise that faith muscle, so that that faith muscle can have micro tears and then grow back stronger when it's becoming, when it's healing. Um, but sometimes, because life around us can be so easy and so comfortable, or because we're already dealing with so much that we don't want to add another thing to our plate, it makes us resistant to those challenges and those trials and those tribulations. And when we're resistant to go through anything that's going to make us uncomfortable, then we're resistant to experience growth in our relationships, growth in our intellect and in our lives. And it makes us less than as a person, because the more you get to stretch and grow yourself, the better you become, the better Christian you can become, the better mother, father, sister, brother, whatever. Because as you grow and experience things that make you uncomfortable, you are allowing yourself to grow, like I said, as a person, and you are stretching your boundaries, but you're also learning empathy, you're learning acceptance, you're learning coping mechanisms. And it's so many things that you learn from having to go through tough trials, having to go through uncomfortable situations. And if we always try to shelter ourselves from that, then we don't get that opportunity for growth. And the same it's the same with our children. If we try to shelter our children from experiencing anything negative, then we forfeit the opportunity for them to grow into who they need to be, as self-sustaining um, human beings, adults, that we don't allow them to become people who can, regulate themselves and who can function in a society how they need to in order to be around other people. There's this part in the book that I wrote, the source study, that talks about pruning. And it talks about how to a tree, pruning can seem like cruel and unusual punishment because you are hacking away pieces of it. But um, when we prune a tree or any type of plant, what you're cutting away is unhealthy, dead, unfruitful branches, so that all of the resources and nutrients that are within that tree can be allocated to branches that are fruitful and that are alive and thriving. Um, and so I think in life, sometimes when we go through difficult times and God is pruning the dead and unfruitful parts of our life and unhealthy parts of our lives away, it is painful and it hurts. And when we're going through that, and it's not comfortable, and when we're going through that, we just want to throw in the towel and we just want to give up. But what God is doing is He is allowing, He's doing what He needs to do so that He can reallocate, so that all of the nourishment and all of the things that He has placed in us can now be reallocated to parts of our lives that are growing and thriving. And when we want to hold on to those dead pieces because they're familiar and because we've become comfortable with them, it is often to the detriment of our progress. I think sometimes comfort can not only be like how I talked about stuff, making stuff easier, like how I was like, oh, my Alexa makes it easier to contact my kids. It makes it easier to preheat the oven and things like that. But there are also times when we get stuck in our comfort zone because it's what we know. We know this pain. We know this relationship. We know this person. We know this job. And if I leave this person, if I try to go to counseling in this relationship, or if I try to stretch my boundaries in this position and in this situation, then I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so I'd rather be comfortable with the unhappiness, the discomfort or the pain that I'm feeling, rather than experience a different type of pain that I don't know about if I change. And change is inevitable. There is not one person in life who has lived their life completely from beginning to end without experiencing some type of change. Change is inevitable, and it can be very uncomfortable because the unknown can cause you fear, it can cause you anxiety, um, and it can make you feel less than and not like yourself because you're trying to figure out who you are now in this new situation. But being used to something should not be a reason that you stay in it, especially if it's not serving you, especially if you are not happy in it, and most especially if it's something that God has already called you out of. If God has called you out of a situation and you are staying in it because it's what you know, because it's within your comfort zone, and you're afraid of what could be on the other side of through. If I go through this and I leave this person or I leave this job, or if I stretch my wings and start this business, or go after my hopes and dreams and desires, or go after that calling that God has placed in my heart. What if I go after it and it's worse than what I'm dealing with right now? If you allow that to keep you stagnant, then you are doing yourself a disservice and you are showing God that you don't trust him. Because if God is placing something on your heart to do, he's going to provide for you through it. And it can be really, it can be like he can provide manna, meaning he can, I use this analogy of manna, like daily manna and day before Sabbath manna, weekday manna and day before Sabbath manna, because the day before the Sabbath, God would rain down extra manna so that they could have provisions for that day as well as the next day. And weekday manna is just every morning he would rain down manna. The Israelites would go out, gather what they needed, and take it back to their tents, and it would just automatically be enough for what they had. They would gather enough for their family. If they gathered too much, it would rot and it would go bad. And so they just had enough for that day. So I say that sometimes God gives you manna, things that are just enough for that day. But there are other times that he gives you a little bit extra. And when we are in our comfort zone of like, okay, I know what this is and I'm afraid to step out, I think a lot of times it's because we don't know how we don't trust God. Like I said before, we don't trust God to provide for us and to get us through these situations. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes he's going to provide you weekday manna, meaning there is not going to be anything left over. He's going to give you just exactly what you need. And he might give it to you like right in the ninth hour. But sometimes he might give you day before Sabbath manna, where you have an overflow of abundance of what you need. But regardless, he's still sustaining you. Regardless, he's still making a way for you and providing for you. And I think that living in this day and age where we're so used to being comfortable, where everything around us is being made and developed to make life easier, I think that because of that, when we come up against a wall, when we come up against a situation that is not ideal and that is hard, and it's going to cause us discomfort, I think it makes it even harder for us to power through it because we are so used to just striving to be comfortable. Like that's the goal. The goal is to like live at your house 24/7 and order DoorDash and have a Roomba that cleans up your floor, which I really would like. My neighbor has one and it's pretty cool. it, it sweeps and vacuums and mops. but have a Roomba and then have a maid and have a this and have a that. Like the thing is to like win the lottery and have everything provided for you just to make life as easy as possible. But sometimes the biggest growth that we experience, sometimes the most joy that we will ever find is in the middle of discomfort. It's in the middle of a trial, in the middle of a situation that God is using to grow and stretch us beyond our limits and beyond our comfort zone. So I didn't want to stay long. I just had that when I was sitting down and I got to hear that physical therapist say that. It really reminded me that there's a purpose. Like the things that we go through serve a purpose. And I always say, I think it was my granny always says it, but I'm trying to remember who she says that says it. I think it's her grandma that says, don't go through something, don't go through anything you don't learn nothing from, baby. I think that's what she says. And so God gives us that each and every time he takes us through a trial or a tribulation, each and every time he brings something to us, he gives us an opportunity to grow and learn from it. And so I don't want us to be stuck in being comfortable, being comfortable in the pain and the suffering that we're dealing with, or just being comfortable and being complacent because it's easy. Neither one of those things are beneficial. And so I don't want us to be comfortable. I want us to work our muscles out, lift those heavy weights, do the hard stuff, do the hard work that it takes to break down those muscles and cause those micro tears so that we can grow stronger and better than we were before. So I thank you so much for joining me this Sunday on Sunday Showers from the Source, and I will see you next Sunday. Thank you. Bye.